Hi, welcome back. In this video, we're going to add a second item to our game. We're going to add a health item. And we already have one item, which is, for me, a coin. You might have a different type of item, but it was like a currency or a resource you could collect. The second item we're going to put in, if our player collects it, it'll refill some of their life. Now let's go over to our core event sheet. If you remember, in our last video, we created a system so that every time an enemy is defeated, it chooses a random number from the set that we give it. And if that number comes up, it either drops a coin or it drops nothing. Let's put in a health item that can drop when the item drop is equal to 2. So our first step is going to be to go over to our layout. We're going to make sure that we're on the right layer, layer 0, and I'm going to insert a new object. It's going to be a sprite, and I'm going to call this health item. You can call it whatever you want. Health item is kind of a generic name. And we want to find the sprite that we created for our health item. Mine is this green potion. Now, if it has an animation, you probably want it to loop. You can adjust the speed to see how it looks. If yours doesn't have an animation, then don't worry about that. Good. Now my potion's way too big. I'm going to shrink it down. I probably should have exported it smaller, but I'll just shrink it down here for now. I would recommend making your items roughly the same size. They don't have to be exactly the same size, but at least something similar. It's probably good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our core event sheet, and I'm going to add some events that make it so whenever our player touches this item, it'll refill some of their life. So let's add an event. We're going to go to our main character, and we're going to do on collision with another object. Click to choose our health item. So when our player and our health item collide, we're going to do two things. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to destroy the health item. Our player has picked it up, so it is destroyed. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to add some health back. Now remember, the way that we control the life for our main character is by using these global variables. Max HP is how much the maximum life is that they can have when they have full life. Current HP is how much life they have at any one given moment. If they get hit by an enemy and take damage, then this number goes down. So what we can do is we can add numbers back to the current HP variable to give them life back. So let's do that. Let's add an action. We're going to go to the system because that's where our global variables are. And under the global variables section, you'll find add to. Let's add to our current HP. Now the value here is how much life you want to give them back when they pick up this health item. It can be whatever you want. I'm going to make mine 20. They get 20 life back out of their 100. And you can always adjust this later. Now let's try it out. I'm going to let my player take damage, so he's a little bit hurt. And if I pick up the potion, it gives them life back. Great. Now there is a problem though. If I try to pick up the potion when my life is already at 100%, notice what happens. It goes beyond the borders of my max HP, right? That black border should represent full life. It shouldn't be able to go beyond that. What I need to do is create an event that checks to make sure that my life is not bigger than the maximum life that I'm allowed. So let's add an event. We're going to go to the system for this. And under the global variables section, you'll find compare variable. We can compare the current HP and check to see if it's ever greater than our max HP. Now, if you don't remember the names of these variables, you might have named them something different. You can always check up here at the top. You were checking to see if your current HP is greater than your max HP. And if it is, then we can reset the current HP to be equal to the max. So let's add an action, go to system. We're going to go to set value for our current HP to be whatever our max HP is. Now this event is constantly checking, and it gets triggered if our current HP gets too big. It resets it back to the max. That should fix it. Let's hit play and try it out. I picked up a potion, and even if my life is full, when I pick it up, it won't get bigger than my max HP. Perfect. Now, the last thing I want to do here is I want to add this item into my item drop system. If you remember in our last video, we created these events for each enemy where it chooses a number from the numbers that we've given it to choose from. Like right now, it's got 3 1s and a 2. When a 1 comes up, it drops a coin. When a 2 comes up, it doesn't drop anything. Let's make it so a health item drops whenever a 2 is chosen. So I'm going to go to my first sub-event, or I guess my second sub-event for my first enemy, where it says enemy 1, when the item drop is equal to 2, we're going to add an action. We're going to go to enemy 1, and this time we're going to spawn another object, health item. Now let's put it on the right layer. Again, hit a quotation mark and you can see all your layers here. We're going to put everything on the layer 0 here. Let's do the same thing for enemy 2. When the enemy 2 chooses a 2 on the item drop, let's go to enemy 2, spawn another object, health item. And we can do the same thing for enemy 3 as well. Great. Now the last thing I might do, let's test this out. I'm going to defeat some enemies, and I think the health potion, it should come up about 1/4 of the time. It popped up there, but notice how it was in front of my defeat animation, kind of blocks the defeat animation. We did this with the red coin too, but what I want to do is add an event where when the health item is created, it's behind the defeat animation. That's a pretty quick event. Let's go to our health item. Let's go to on created. I'm going to add an action for the health item. And I'm just going to go to the bottom, move it to the bottom of the layer. That way it's behind everything else. Now, if that's not something you care about, don't worry about it. But I prefer to have the animation in front and then the health item pops up behind it. Good. Now you can adjust those numbers however you want. I have mine set up so a health item only drops about 1 out of 4 times. So if I kill 4 enemies, then a health item should drop once. 2 coins, 3rd one, health item, 4th one, another coin. Looks good. Now the last thing I'm going to do before I wrap it up is I want to make a group to organize all this stuff. I'm just going to call this group items. I'm going to go to add group. And this is where I'll put all of my item stuff. So I'm going to select all these events that I made in the last couple videos. Just add them to this group. That keeps them nice and organized. Excellent. All right, we'll leave it there today. Thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.